The 70s was a great time for guards in the NBA, with legends like Jerry West, Walt Frazier, Pete Maravich, and Nate Archibald. But one player seems to slip under the radar, Gus Williams. Although he was a smaller guard at 6'2" and 175 pounds, his game was ahead of its time. He was extremely quick with the ball in his hands, with an elite handle to break down defenders and the body control to finish at the rim amongst the trees. He was also a great outside shooter, and he was an awesome perimeter defender. After waiting his turn in Golden State, he was traded to Seattle, where he formed a dynamic backcourt with Dennis Johnson, helping the Sonics win their only title in 1979. Even after holding out for a season due to a contract dispute, he returned to the Sonics, where he had a few All-Star and All-NBA seasons before retiring in 1987. Another interesting fact is that his younger brother Ray also had a solid career in the NBA as well. But today's video will pay tribute to one of the most underrated guards in NBA history. Welcome to PZ Hoops, and let's get down to it. Gus was born on October 10, 1953 in Mount Vernon, New York. At Mount Vernon High, he didn't even make the varsity team until his senior year, becoming the State Player of the Year and becoming a second-team parade All-American. Gus would commit to USC and would start at the two guard along with other NBA talent in Dan Anderson and John Lambert. He would quickly show his scoring ability, dropping 27 on Cal, 24 on Georgia, and back-to-back 20-point games against LaSalle and Princeton. The Trojans were great defensively, but they weren't the best offensively, finishing 18-10 on the season, before losing to Notre Dame in the NIT. Gus averaged 12 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 3 assists. In 1973, the Trojans kept pretty much the same team as Gus became the primary scorer, and USC was a lot better this year. They had a 5-game, a 7-game, and an 8-game win streak. Gus was becoming one of the best players in the country, putting up 29 points against Arizona, 27 against SMU, 25 on Bradley, and 22 on Illinois, as the Trojans finished 24-5. Gus averaged 15.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 5 assists, but USC didn't make the tournament, losing in the third round of the NIT to Indiana. Gus's senior season would be his best, as USC was hot, winning 8 straight to begin the season. After a 13-1 start, they finished 18-7. Gus had 12 20-point games this year, as the Trojans lost in the NIT to Drake. Gus averaged 21 points, 4.5 rebounds, and a conference-leading 5.5 assists. He also made the first-team All-Pac-8, along with being named a second-team All-American. Gus was picked in the second round of the 1975 NBA draft by the Golden State Warriors. Golden State was just coming off a championship with their dynamic trio of Rick Barry, Phil Smith, and Jamal Wilkes. Even on a team with all that scoring, Gus came in and provided a great spark off the bench. In the 7th game of the season, he dropped 24 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, and 5 steals against the Lakers. He dropped 27 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 7 steals against the Sonics on December 7th. He dropped 27 on the Lakers again on January 3rd. Golden State was still an elite team, with the league's best offense and the 4th best defense, finishing the season 59-23. Gus averaged 12 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals, finishing as the runner-up to Rookie of the Year Alvin Adams. The Warriors faced the Pistons in the semifinals, as Gus had a bench role, dropping 16 points in a Game 6 overtime win to help Golden State advance. Facing the Suns next, Gus got hurt in Game 5, so he really didn't contribute that much, as the Suns won in 7. The Warriors drafted Robert Parrish in 1976 for more big man depth, as Gus's role on the offense diminished this year. He only had 4 20-point games this season, with his best performance being on February 3rd against the Jazz, with 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals. Rick was aging, but he was still leading the team, as the Warriors' defense was a lot worse this year, so their record reflected it. But 46-36 was enough to make the playoffs. Gus averaged 9.5 points, 3 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1.5 steals, as the Warriors faced the Pistons again, with Gus starting, although with limited minutes. Golden State easily beat Detroit in 3 games, facing the Lakers in the semifinals. Gus averaged about 10 points and 3 assists, but the Lakers won in 7 games. After his rookie deal expired, Gus was allowed to walk in free agency, so he signed with Seattle. The Bill Russell experiment hadn't worked out, but the Sonics still had some young talent. Dennis Johnson was an elite defender, Fred Brown was an outstanding scorer, and Jack Sigma had a unique offensive game for a big. The team also had an opportunity for Gus to be the primary scorer. He dropped a then career high 37 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 8 steals on December 14th against the Pistons, one of 8 30-point games. He had 6 games with 5 or more steals, recording a career-high 10 steals on February 22nd against New Jersey. Seattle slowed the pace down, allowing the second fewest points in the league, as they had 3 players in the top 20 in defensive rating. In his first season in Seattle, Gus averaged 18 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2.5 steals, as the Sonics finished 47-35, facing the Lakers in the first round. Gus averaged 20 points, 5 assists, and 2.5 steals in a 3-game series win for Seattle. He averaged similar numbers through the next 2 rounds as the Sonics beat the Blazers and the Nuggets to make the NBA Finals, facing the Washington Bullets. This was a hard-fought series that went the distance, but the Sonics were ice cold in Game 7, shooting 38% as a team. Marvin Webster had the game of his life with 27 points, 19 rebounds, and 4 blocks, but Dennis Johnson shot 0 for 14 and Gus shot 4 for 12 and fouled out, as the Bullets won the title in Seattle. With Paul Silas getting older, the Sonics traded for Lonnie Shelton to play the 4. Other than that, they really didn't change much since they were focused on revenge this year. Gus continued to improve, dropping 28 20-point games and 7 30-point games, including an 8-game stretch in March where he averaged 29 points. He even flirted with a triple-double in the second to last game of the season, with 31 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists, and 5 steals. Jack and Dennis both broke out, making the All-Star team as Seattle's defense was elite, allowing the fewest points and the lowest shooting percentage in the league. Gus averaged 19 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals, as the Sonics finished 52-30, facing the Lakers in the semifinals, as this would be the ultimate coming out party for him. He dropped 27, 38, 29, in back-to-back 30-point games on 50% shooting for the series, as the Sonics won in 5. The Suns were next in the conference finals, as Gus dropped 27 in Game 1 and 35 in Game 3. The series went to Game 7, where he dropped 29 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks to will the Sonics back to the finals for a rematch with the Bullets. But this year would be different, as Gus really came to play, averaging 29 points as Seattle won in 5 games, giving him his first ring. With the Sonics set to defend their title in 1979, Gus really came into his own as one of the best scorers in the league, dropping 27 points and 5 steals in the season opener. He dropped another career high with 41 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 blocks against Phoenix on November 28th. He flirted with another triple-double on December 30th with 26 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, and 5 steals. He recorded 11 games with 5 or more steals and 3 games with double-digit assists. In his breakout season, Gus averaged 22 points, 3.5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2.5 steals, as he finished 8th in MVP voting, even making the All-NBA second team. Seattle improved this year, finishing 56-26 and facing Portland in the first round. Gus went off this series, averaging 25 points on 52% shooting in a 3-game series win. The semifinals brought the Bucks, as Gus dropped 33 times this series, helping Seattle win in 7. The conference finals brought a familiar foe in the Lakers, but the addition of Magic made them really difficult to beat. Gus dropped 28 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and 5 steals to help the Sonics steal Game 1 in LA. This would be the only game that they would win, as they lost the series in 5. Gus's contract was up for renewal in 1980, but the Sonics only offered him $500,000, an amount that Gus felt was extremely disrespectful considering his production. So he did the unthinkable, choosing to sit out the entire season. The Sonics brought in Paul Westphal to try and replace his scoring, but it was extremely evident how important Gus was to the team. As Jack would say, "Without Gus in there to give me the ball on the break, our transition game disappeared and our playoff chances went right along with it. It was like we were a different ball club. We didn't run the way we did the year before. We seldom got any easy baskets, and we never blew any opposing teams out of the building the way we did when Gus was around." Paul would only play in 36 games, while Lonnie Shelton missed 68 games, and the Sonics offense dropped from 12th to 20th, finishing 34-48 and missing the playoffs for the first time in 4 years. Gus decided to return in 1981 after the Sonics signed him to a 5-year, $3 million deal. He would quickly prove that his time off had no effect on his game, as he would have the best season of his career. In his first game in over a year, he dropped 28 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 steals. He had 16 double-doubles, even putting up his only career triple-double on December 8th against Houston with 29 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, and 3 steals. Jack had the best season of his career this year as well, while Lonnie Shelton came back from injury to make his first All-Star game. The Sonics had improved their offense, finishing 52-30. Gus's career year saw him average 23 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals, finally making his first All-Star game, even being named to the All-NBA First Team, and winning the Comeback Player of the Year award. The Sonics faced the Rockets in the first round, getting past them in 3 games, as Gus averaged 22 points and 9 assists. The next series was against the Spurs, and although Gus averaged 30 points and 8 assists this series, Seattle really couldn't contain George Gervin or Mike Mitchell, and the Spurs won in 5 games. In 1982, the Sonics made a unique signing, trading for former All-Star David Thompson, a polarizing figure who had just come back from rehab. Gus was great at adapting his game to fit his teammates, as he now served as more of a playmaker this year. Although he still scored his points, he dished double-digit assists in 23 games. He dropped 5 or more steals in 10 games, and he made the All-Star team again. David Thompson won the Comeback Player of the Year award after a resurgent season. Seattle was surprisingly average on both sides of the ball this year, but they finished 48-34. Gus averaged 20 points, 2.5 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2.5 steals. As the Sonics faced Portland in the first round again, he dropped 34 points, 7 assists, and 3 steals, while Jack dropped 23 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists, but those two were the only ones to show up in Game 1, as Portland shot 53% in the easy win. Gus dropped 31 in Game 2, but the Seattle starters all shot horribly as Portland won the game and the series. The Sonics traded for Tom Chambers in the offseason, a high-scoring forward that could jumpstart their offense. Al Wood was also brought in for more scoring. David Thompson was pretty much done at this point, especially after an injury suffered at a nightclub. Gus, now 30, still showed that he could score at an elite level, dropping 31 points, 4 rebounds, 10 assists, and 4 steals in the second game of the season. On December 9th against Dallas, he put up 23 points, a career-high 20 assists, and 5 steals. Gus was still pickpocketing everyone he guarded, recording 10 games with 5 or more steals. He finished the season averaging 19 points, 2.5 rebounds, 8.5 assists, and 2.5 steals. Chambers averaged 18 a game, while Al Wood had a career year, as the Sonics' defense had improved, but their offense was subpar, finishing 42-40 and facing Dallas in the first round. Gus dropped 37 points and 8 assists on 74% shooting in Game 1, but Dallas snuck out a 2-point win. He dropped double-doubles over the next 2 games to help Seattle take the series lead. He put up 15-9 in Game 5, but he shot 5 for 16 as Dallas tied it going into the series-deciding Game 5. Gus dropped 27 points and 14 assists on 62% shooting, but Dallas won by 1 point in overtime. After 7 years with Seattle, Gus was traded to the Bullets for Tim McCormick and Ricky Sobers. Washington had a young team that featured a great center in Jeff Ruland, along with solid scorers Jeff Malone, Greg Ballard, and Treetop Robinson. Gus was still performing well, dropping 23 points, 5 rebounds, 9 assists, and 9 steals on the third game of the season, and 37 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals 3 games later. He had 20 double-doubles in 7 games with 5 or more steals. Because he didn't have the same speed as his younger days, Gus started shooting a lot more threes, finishing 3rd in the league with 176 attempts and 5th with 51 makes. However, this would be the year that Jeff Ruland's body started to break down, as he only played in 37 games. Jeff Malone was playing very well in his sophomore season, but the Bullets struggled offensively, finishing 40-42. In his first season with Washington, Gus averaged 20 points, 2.5 rebounds, 7.5 assists, and 2.5 steals. Washington still made the playoffs, so he faced the Sixers in the first round, who had a rookie Charles Barkley coming off the bench. Gus dropped 12 points and 8 assists, but he committed 7 turnovers and shot 5 for 13 as the Sixers took Game 1 by 7. Jeff Malone put up 30 in Game 2, but the Sixers still won by 19 to go up 2-0. Gus bounced back in Game 3 with 28 points and 2 steals as Washington got on the board. He dropped 17 points and 4 assists in Game 4, but he shot 7 for 21 as the Sixers shot 57% from the field, taking the game in the series. In 1985, Jeff Ruland continued to deal with injuries, so the Bullets drafted 7'7" Manute Bol out of Bridgeport. Gus was now on the decline, but he still provided solid minutes as a starter. He put up 8 double-doubles along with a season-high 33 points, 12 assists, and 4 steals on January 2nd against the Knicks. He was still shooting the 3 a lot with 116 attempts and 30 makes. Jeff Malone put up 22 points a game, making the All-Star team for the first time, while Manute blocked 5 shots a game as a rookie. Despite all this, Washington still had an extremely inefficient offense, ranking last in assists, second to last in field goal percentage, and third last in free throws made, finishing 39-43 on the season, as they snuck into the playoffs. Gus averaged 13.5 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, and a steal. The Bullets faced the Sixers again in the first round, as Gus put up 17 points, 7 assists, and 4 steals, leading Washington to a 1-point win, surviving a 26-point, 22-rebound, and 9-assist game from Barkley. Gus dropped 22 points, 12 assists, and 3 steals, but Barkley put up 27 and 20 as the Sixers evened the series. Gus dropped 28 points and 3 steals in Game 3, but the Sixers won again. He had a modest 10 points in Game 4, but Jeff and Treetop combined for 63 points as the Bullets tied the series. Gus had a decent Game 5 with 14 points and 6 assists, but Barkley dropped a triple-double as Philly blew them out, taking the series. The Bullets decided to go in another direction, so they waived Gus in the offseason, but he wouldn't sign with the team until January 6th, joining the Hawks. Along with Dominique, the Hawks had Doc Rivers and Randy Whitman as the established starters, so Gus would come off the bench for the first time since his Golden State days. He was still solid in limited minutes, dropping 12 points and 4 assists in 22 minutes against the Celtics, and 6 points, 4 rebounds, 9 assists, and 4 steals in 18 minutes against the Clippers. Although the Hawks finished 57-25, Gus wasn't included on the playoff roster. In his final season, he averaged 4 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists, and half a steal. Gus would retire after this season, playing 11 years in the league. He would later be recognized by the Sonics and USC, having his number retired by both organizations. Unfortunately, he suffered a stroke in February 2020 and was in an assisted living facility until January 2025, where he passed away at the age of 71. Gus Williams was a player that doesn't get his just due, as he was an elite scorer who could get his buckets in multiple ways. He also loved to set up his teammates for easy buckets, and he was a great perimeter defender. Gus was the engine that powered the best team in SuperSonic's history, and it's a little absurd that he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he's definitely one of the most underrated point guards in NBA history. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate you guys for the support. I've always seen Gus Williams, you guys have been recommending him in the comments. And also when I'm looking through the videos for the other players I've done, like his name always just miraculously shows up. He's dropping 35 in the playoffs, 32 here, 35 here, 37 here. I watched the highlights, man. He's such a great player. Like he reminds me of like a Steve Francis, like a Kyrie, like a Marbury, like someone that can get to the rim easily, someone that can shoot, someone that can pass, like a really fast guard, can do everything on offense, that just controls the game. The fact that he could adapt his game to whenever the team needed. You sit out a whole entire year and you come back and have the best season of your career. That's crazy. Like you don't even play basketball for a whole year and you come back and have the best season of your career. It's just unbelievable. Get Gus Williams in the Hall of Fame, man. Put some respect on his name. Put some respect on Gus Williams' name. Get this man in the Hall of Fame, please. Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys for the support. Leave a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new. Turn those post notifications on. Be safe. Have a great day. Stay on the grind. I'm out. Peace.